welcome to another weekly rundown. I'm your host, Jason Beam, and this is what I'm going to be talking about that I've been reading lately. So I want to start off with a book called The Weed That Strings the Hangman's Bag. It's by Alan Bradley, and it's the second book in a series of books following a young girl named Flavia DeLuce, who solves mysteries using her skills, using her knowledge of chemistry and especially of poisons. And she gets kind of wrapped up in these situations that come along and uses her intellect to get herself out of them. Now, I did a book review on the first book in the series, which was called The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, and I do highly recommend that as well. But this one, I'm not very far into it, but so far some people who are famous for doing a traveling show involving puppets get stranded in Flavia's hometown. They're staying in a church, and they agree to put upon a show for the townspeople. Flavia, of course, realizes things aren't, necessarily as they seem, and she's already trying to investigate what's going on. It's very interesting. Second, I'd like to talk about a novel that I finished recently called Post Office by Charles Bukowski. This is one of those kind of like rambling, plotless stories that just follows a character from situation to situation, event to event. This story is basically about a guy who just gets a job as a mailman at a post office, and the shitty conditions that he has to go through in his day-to-day job. And he just talks about coming to work hungover, how he just shacks up with various women, and then later he gets out of it, and then it goes off on this tangent where he goes off and marries a millionairess from Texas, and then comes back as a mail clerk, and then just kind of rambles on from there about people he knows, and his bosses, and his girlfriends, and etc. It's really entertaining. I'm of the belief that character is first and foremost the most important thing in a story, and I am very firmly believe that you can have a plotless story as long as the characters are interesting. And Bukowski's story, the protagonist, his name is Henry Chinaski, is a very interesting guy, even if I can't pronounce his last name. Also, I read the worst Goosebumps book, Deep Trouble 2. This is the worst Goosebumps book in the entire series. It looks interesting. But first off, that cover is very misleading. That looks more interesting than this story is, and it's not interesting in the slightest. There are a giant goldfish, a giant snail, a giant crab. I think at one point there's a giant shark, but even that's really not that interesting. And it turns out the worst part of the book is basically just, the threat is basically just a mad scientist who wants to enlarge fish. That is very uninteresting. But even on his worst day, R.L. Stine is always a treasure. And I still liked it, even though it is nowhere near as entertaining as the other Goosebumps series. And lastly, I want to talk about Stephen King's overview of the horror genre, Danse Macabre. I'm still reading this. I'm almost done. But it's very good and very well written, of course. I'll leave it to someone like Stephen King to talk about horror and its various influences, where it comes from, the ideas of what's scary and why we find them scary, as well as just a general overview of horror in film, television, and literature, specifically from the years 1950 to 1980. It's a very good book. I'd like to see someone else do a follow-up of horror media from 1980 to the present. That would be interesting. Maybe even King himself could write a sequel of sorts. That would be fun. But it's very good, and it's usual conversational style of King. It's very enthusiastic in its topic. It's very well researched, very well thought out, and he gives some interesting ideas as to why we like being scared. We like going into dark houses and dark places and the darker side of the human psyche, and why not only we enjoy it, but why it's needed and important to experience these things. So anyways, those are the books I've been reading lately. I'll try to have another episode of Jason Read Shit up soon. I don't know when I will have another episode of Jason Read Shit, but I will try to soon. So anyways, that's all for now, and I will see you guys later. Bye.